should also be clear, though, that the president can say whatever he wants to say at his party in the East Room. He has no power to stop the counting of the votes, and the Supreme Court is not going to stop the counting of the votes. There is no basis in law for doing this. As we mentioned a short while ago, in the state of Pennsylvania, which is where it might all come down to, the president said he's up, and he's right. He's at about 690,000 votes. Well, there are almost 2 million mail-in absentee ballots that have not been counted yet in the state of Pennsylvania. Of the 500,000 that have been counted, about 78% of those have been going to Biden because Democrats are more likely to vote by mail than Republicans. So if you do a little bit of math, that lead of 690,000 could well go away when the ballots are counted. And there is nothing the president can do to stop that counting. Now, there are still counting that has to happen in Wisconsin and in Michigan. The president may win those states, or he may lose them. But the counting will happen, and we will have results. And the Supreme Court is not going to stop that, and the president doesn't have the power to stop that.
Sarah Fagan, one of the other questions is going to be depending on how far the president decides to push this strategy, if indeed he does decide to push it beyond the speech tonight, is whether those Republicans in the Senate especially who've defended him for the most part through thick and thin will go along with this. There were some signals in recent days that Republicans in the Senate would not go along with any attempt to stop the vote.
I don't think Republicans are going to back him on this. I mean, it's one thing when you're in the throes of a hand-to-hand counting and all of a sudden there's a recount and 13,000 ballots appear. That's a different legal matter. What Jon Karl said is exactly right. Whatever he said just now, it was bizarre, first of all. It was politically stupid. He was having a good night tonight.
Yeah, don't hold back now. Keep going on the other side.
No, he was having a good night tonight, and frankly, a better night than most people thought he would have. And he just stepped on his message for the next 3 days.
And Martha Raddatz, the other question is, what other institutions will go along with this if indeed the president pushes it?
Yeah, and if he pushes it, and it's exactly right, he doesn't have the power to do this, but what we saw tonight is what Donald Trump, if Donald Trump loses, that's how he's going to lose. He's going to be a sore loser. He's going to help divide the country even further. And other institutions going along with him, you know, we'll have to wait and see. In terms of voters, in terms of those who back him, I think this is even a step too far for many of them, calling this a fraud before it's even over. But if anyone had any doubt how Donald Trump, if he loses, will go out, it will be this way, that he will call it a fraud. He will say the election was stolen no matter what happens.
But Heidi Heitkamp people are listening tonight, even though it's 2:38 in the morning.
You know what, George? I think that you're missing one really important part, which is his backers, the people who form militias, the people who slow down buses on roads in Texas. They're hearing quite a different story. You're saying this is going to hurt him. He is calling on, you know, when he says stand by and wait, that this is the moment. And so this is more than maybe not politically smart. It's more than not being, you know, right as a matter of constitution or law. This is a dog whistle, and it's very, very dangerous.
Chris, you want to respond to that?
Listen, as I talk tonight now, not as a former governor, but as a former U.S. attorney. There's just no basis to make that argument tonight. There just isn't. All of these votes have to be counted that are in now. In Pennsylvania, the argument won't even start in Pennsylvania until tomorrow or Thursday or Friday, because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court extended for 3 days when you could accept ballots. Now, I understand there could be an argument on that based upon Pennsylvania law, but that argument's for later. Tonight, this was not the time to make this argument. And, you know,
it's not about law, it's about politics, right? He's preparing the battlefield.
Well, listen, it is, but it's got to be bigger than that. And I disagree with what he did tonight. And I think Sarah's right that, you know, there comes a point where you have to let the process play itself out before you judge it to have been flawed. And I think by prematurely doing this, if there is a flaw in it later, he has undercut his own credibility in calling attention to that flaw. So I think it's a bad strategic decision. It's a bad political decision. And it's not the kind of decision you would expect someone to make tonight who holds the position he holds.
Rahm Emanuel.
This is Donald Trump. If he's going to lose, I actually think he's indicated that he's going to lose, and he's going to be the victim of unfair play. That is always how it happens for him. This is actually in his wheelhouse. He either is a victim of something unfair. Now, we can say all about the legal. This has nothing to do with the law. I appreciate the legal team we've assembled. This is all about politics, and he is now going to be the victim of unfair play, and he is now casting a delegitimacy to Biden in the way that he was done on the Russia investigation. That's
Now
what
we
he's
have to take
doing.
a break. You get the last word.
I think the fact that he used the word disenfranchised is disrespectful. Because if anything, the voters that have been disenfranchised have been the Democratic voters who have, waited for decisions, have waited in line, the post office has been compromised. If anybody's stealing an election, if anybody's compromising an election, it's been his side. So I think it's deeply disrespectful for him to use those words. I do agree with Heidi that I think the signaling to the folks who are standing back and standing by to redeem him if this election is quote unquote stolen from him, I think that rhetoric needs to be completely squashed and brought down. There are a lot of people who are afraid of that. And I think really when I look at that red map, all of these red states that have voted for this guy, this is your guy. This is a guy who is not respecting the foundation of our very democracy. And I think it's a shame.
Have to take a break.